it ain't over till it's over. And Darwin Núñez likes to take that to its absolute limits. There were loads of late goals this weekend, though, and loads of late significant goals as well. Winners and equalisers all coming 80 minutes plus. I mean, Chelsea got their goal from Disasi. That was 83 minutes for his one. And they left it right till late in the game. And we can see what it meant to those Chelsea players. But having got back into it, Brentford... yeah, it's a great way to win and a horrible way to lose a late goal, isn't it?
Terrible way to lose.
Yeah, and then there was the Semenyo goal for Bournemouth. That was on 88. I mean, they were already a goal up there, but the Villa one that came up
heartbreaking.
80-odd minutes, 89 minutes, I think, for the Villa goal.
Oh, that was.
And then obviously Haaland with 90 plus one, but that was to make it 3-1.
I think that's what sets this league apart.
This one, Souček.
Oh,
yeah,
late
again, late drama.
But in fact, there were two in that one,
yeah.
I think
in fact, there's the other one.
Yeah, beautiful.
It sets this league apart from so many others because, you know, the other leagues, there are one or two big teams, but the others aren't of comparable ability. But you look at some of the other teams in this league who they really do say
or in previous seasons. I mean, it's always been...
Last minute
it's always been the case.
See, that's the joy. That's what I could see. I just saw Darwin Núñez there. And when you know, obviously we're away from home there, but like Darwin Núñez, you see him score that goal, and you just see all the Liverpool fans behind him. It's an unbelievable feeling. Yeah. To score that late away from home.
I just love seeing you with hair.
My daughters can't believe it's me.
You forget that you used to have
I forgot I used to have it.
Shall we clear up the controversy around the Darwin Núñez goal before we go any further? So there was a drop ball situation. Konate, the ball was kicked at his head.
He was close to getting his head booted.
Yeah, well, yes. And so correctly, the game was stopped. But in theory, well, by law, the ball at that point should have been
dropped there.
It should have been dropped there, and it should have been given to Nottingham Forest. It should have been a Nottingham Forest player. Instead, it was returned to Kevin Kelleher, and Liverpool scored from that moment. But there was an incident in the first half as well, where Harvey Elliott took a knock to the head from Ryan Yates' shot, and Paul Tierney did exactly the same thing, which is award the free kick. Not award the free kick, but the restart went in Nottingham Forest's favour. So he made what we're going to call... he made the same mistake twice in the game, once for each team. But, Rachel, your theory on this is very interesting.
Yeah, I think this one you just gets wrong, the second one, which obviously late in the game, then there is another goal. But I actually think Luis Diaz is smart there. And players sort of know. And in that moment, the ref's trying to think about a lot of things. The other assistant should be helping him, but he's thinking, I'm just going to play the ball back. There's a chance if I kick the ball towards the goal, we might get it. And I know from playing in games, drop balls are one of the worst things for the refs. There's so often, if that's a decision, you find the decision goes to the team, but it's less danger. Because for the ref, they don't like being that close to the ball. They know they have to drop it. And often they say to you, they go and just pass this backwards so I can get into position. It's just one of these things in the game that sometimes causes us players that frustration. That one he's got wrong. I don't think it's controversial how the game ends. Forest should deal with it. They should deal with the corner. They have an opportunity to clear it. They don't. And a team like Liverpool, you know they're going to play to the very last dying minute, especially in a game they're not winning. So I don't think it's that controversial. I think the ref got it wrong. And what happened after that, I think you've got to take ownership for it.
But I think that's really interesting. So although you're saying it is just the ref getting it wrong in the case of the Konate incident where he goes down, the idea is that
he actually got kicked in the face.
But the idea is that if the referee had then stopped the ball, stopped the game in that position, and awarded effectively a Nottingham Forest free kick, allowed a Nottingham Forest player to restart from there, it hands the advantage very much to them rather than to a defensive player where there's less jeopardy because they're not in a position necessarily where Liverpool can threaten, even though 90 seconds later they went on. It's not what they should do, but what you're saying is that it's something that happens often because it feels like a low-stakes decision. I think that's just an interesting way. I mean, they were just incorrect decisions on both ends.
Listen, I think Rachel summed it up really well in terms of I can give you the theory, but Rachel, having played, can tell you all about the confusion that leads to a mistake like that. And like you rightly said, Kelly, he's been consistent with the mistake because he's done the same thing in the first half. I'm very much. I'm copying you, really, but it's a minute and 50 seconds between the decision being made and the goal being scored, and there are multiple opportunities to clear the ball that Forest don't take. You cannot blame the referee for that.
Well, what do you think?
Well, it should have been a drop ball for Forest.
Yeah.
And, you know, at that stage, they're going to have their players in the box. Hopefully, you know, you're going to put a ball in the box. There's some, you know, that's what they're playing for. They would have turned. They would have tried and got that ball in the box. They've missed out on that opportunity through the fact that the referees made a poor decision. And then, obviously, it compounds it by them going up and scoring, because you're always going to think, well, maybe we would have scored from this side. If we had a free kick from here, we might have scored. You can say these things now because of a mistake so poor.
I don't disagree.
Bad mistake.
I don't disagree at all with anything you're saying. I'm just saying I don't see that as a mistake on a par with, for example, the legitimate goal scored by Liverpool against Spurs and the VAR mistake that happened, because there are so many phases of play that Forest could have taken ownership, as you said, of the ball.
It's over a minute.
Over
50 seconds.
Absolutely bang on right, but then you still can't take away the fact that this referee, for his mistake, has stopped them from an opportunity.
It is
and
annoying.
that's all I'm saying. He has taken away an opportunity that they should have had.
Yeah.
So of course you can look at the other end, and Forest should have. You see them trying to tackle it, wearing the edge of their box. You know what I mean? Of course that's a big mistake. But he's taken the opportunity away from them. That should not be overlooked for me.
So the referee's error means that Forest don't have an opportunity to score a goal from a really good position, or at least create a chance from a really good position. And then with the bench, the owner, their new referee advisor, Mark Clattenburg, who came out and made a statement on it. This is a new thing. What do we think about referee advisors to the board and to the football club?
It's a sad indictment of the game that you have to have a referee in what's it called?
Well, I don't know what that.
Come on, man.
Because it's a new role. I don't really know.
I mean, the referees used to be able to just get on with it. Obviously, everything's changed now.
It could be great for us.
What's he going to do?
Well, what he did do was come out and talk to the media and give an interview and give his opinion on what had happened.
And it's a fascinating one, because after a match, full-time whistle goes and the fans disappear. The journalists go down the tunnel, they try to interview players. And if I were working on a game, I would try to look, press officer, can you give us Mark Clattenburg?
Yeah.
I'd ask.
Clats.
Absolutely.
Clats with the tats.
But here's the thing. But here's the thing. I think, all the joking aside, what is his role? You know, because if his role is to use his influence and his relationships with other referees, that's not great. Now, I have to say, I've spoken to the PGMOL.
It's more of an explanatory role, isn't it?
Well, it is, but that's the thing. If it is an explanatory role, why is he speaking to the media? And why is he calling for this or for that? Surely that is the role of Nuno or maybe more senior figures at the club. The PGMOL have been... I spoke to them yesterday and they said, listen, Harold Webb has had a great relationship with all the clubs. Whoever appoints whoever, that's going to have no influence whatsoever on the decisions that referees make. So it's their prerogative that if they want to employ anybody. It just
doesn't feel good.
Well, because if the other 19 clubs in the Premier League say, all right, I'll tell you what, we'll go and get a referee as well. Where does it end?
Yeah.
It's a little bit fun, though, isn't it? Are you not enjoying it a little bit? Did you not? Was there not a little frisson when you went, oh, Mark Clattenburg? Then you get an official response.
It's new. It
New.
reminded me of Friends, where the character Chandler, and everyone knows what everyone else does. They say, Chandler, what do you do?
No one knows. No one knows, but that's a good point. I suppose all the rest of the
But he comes out, he talks about decisions that the club feel.
What difference does it make to the grand scheme?
What he didn't expect was in the very first game that he's got that. He's dealing with Evangelos Marinakis coming onto the pitch and everybody being furious and some kind of strange decisions. There is, you know, when we talk about, you know, the opportunity that was given to Liverpool by the fact that the drop ball wasn't given to Nottingham Forest. There is that opportunity for them to go and score a late goal. This is the latest goal that Liverpool have scored in the Premier League, latest winning goal Liverpool have scored in the Premier League since records began, which was only 2006. But look at this, sort of late Liverpool winners. That's the 85th plus minute this season. They just keep on going. They are relentless. They're one of the top teams in terms of rescuing points from losing situations as well.
Kels,
Manchester City now on 21 points from losing situations this season. But yeah.
But Kels, when you look at, we say like Liverpool know how to navigate this end of the season, even with the injuries they've still got big players to come back. But they're getting it done. You know what I mean? They're buoyed as well, using the youngsters as well. That's kind of giving them extra energy and a buzz. And they're getting it done however they can to stay in touch. That's what they're doing. This is what it's about, grinding it out if it goes down that late. And that's why you can see how everybody's celebrating, because they've got a team of players who understand what their role is right now at this stage of the season. It's brilliant to watch.
Will it be enough, though, against Manchester City next weekend? Like, this is very much dependent on who comes back, I suppose, for Liverpool in terms of the injuries and what mix they have of those inexperienced players with their first choice starting 11. But I mean, it's a tough ask if they're going to have those injuries ahead of that game. Even though it's at Anfield and City don't have a good record there under Guardiola.
I just had a really crazy thought. Can both of them lose?
Yeah.
Just came into my head. But, like, no,
Stay with us for more.
I look at it.
Class analysis.
Can both of them lose for Arsenal, please? No, but the thing, on the same day.
Do Arsenal want a draw, then?
No, we want them both to lose. No, but the thing is, you look at it from Liverpool's point of view. Is it
At Anfield.
At Anfield? Come on, man. Liverpool
8
at this
games
stage.
for Pep Guardiola for Manchester City.
I fancy Liverpool.
1 win, 5 defeats.
I fancy Liverpool, Rach. I would do.
Even if, I mean, what's the situation with players coming back? Are we expecting Salah to be back, Szoboszlai to be back?
Yeah. Szoboszlai, I'm not so sure. Salah, I think, will be back. Nunes, we think, will start.
It's just, the City, again, you know, at the moment, we're seeing match winners coming to the fore in Phil Foden. You know, De Bruyne will probably be playing that. The fact is that, yes, we know what City are capable of with Haaland, but they're playing Liverpool at this stage of the season. And you know, Liverpool have to try and win or definitely not lose. It's going to be like, it's the game of the season for me now.
Well, until they go to the Etihad and play Arsenal.
Which will be the game of the
season next time.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, you know, March is huge for the title race because Manchester City, as we've been saying, play Liverpool at Anfield, Arsenal at the Etihad. There is a huge game that we're going to talk about in a second that's going to be coming up next weekend between Tottenham and Aston Villa, which is going to be huge for the Champions League qualification. By the end of March, the game between Arsenal and Manchester City and Arsenal is the 31st of March. By the end of March, we could have a really clear idea of where the title's going to be going.
Yeah, City play.
Why are you smiling? You love this bit, don't you?
This is it. This is where it starts happening. I just got a goosebump there. Go on, Darren, sorry.
I was about to say, City play 5 of the top 7. So obviously they've got a big hand in determining a number of things. But I think Liverpool's home record will come into play. It's fantastic so far this season. I think Arsenal's superior defence to the both of them is going to come into play. They've got the best defensive record in the Premier League so far.
And they've been really building on their goal difference as well because of that. So playing Sheffield United this evening,
it's really going to help.
You feel like if they can get a lot of goals against them, which we know Sheffield United are capable of conceding, that could help. Should it come down to
Sheffield United conceded 66 goals in 26 games. You have to go back to Ipswich in 1964 for the last team to concede as many goals by this stage of the season. I think Arsenal tonight, the expectation and respect to Sheffield United, of course, but the expectation is against a team that's been conceding 5s and 6s and 8s. Arsenal are expected to score big tonight. But I just think in terms of the race itself,
been the Sheffield United team talk, I think.
They're probably to win 2-0.
But they did. It was last weekend when they had the game against Aston Villa, and it looked as though Villa did wipe the floor with them. But then following on from that, they times have looked quite resilient. There have been signs under Chris Wilder that they can be resilient for periods in games.
And what we've seen with Arsenal, as well, is that they can struggle with a low block if that's what he's going to do. They're going to have to be very disciplined in it. We saw it like Porto in the Champions League, but if Sheffield can do that, then frustrate Arsenal, then we'll see, because you'll see at one stage all 4 guys up front weren't scoring. That was a massive problem. You've got a great defender who couldn't score. You have to make sure that in a game like this, again, if it's 1-0, Arsenal fans take that, because you have to win at this stage. Yes, they've scored some goals to build up the goal difference. This game, I'll take 1-0 and a battering, but as long as they win, I don't care.
Do you know what? The difference between elite sports people and us is that when you're saying, it's the end of the season, I'm so excited, I've got goosebumps. I'm sitting here feeling sick with nerves. The teams I have no affinity with. It affects people differently. Some of us will never be elite. Maybe that's the thing. Yeah, Manchester City dominated the derby. That win for Manchester United over Manchester United means they are still a point behind Liverpool, who stay top after that dramatic late winner at Forest. Arsenal are 5 points off top spot, but they do play their game in hand at bottom club Sheffield United later on today. Aston Villa 5 points clear of Spurs in 5th and Manchester United in 6th, with West Ham moving up to 7th. The promoted clubs continue to fill the relegation spots. Forest is still only 4 points clear of safety after losing to Liverpool. No wins in 10 Premier League matches. It's a worry for Everton, who dropped to 16th. Brentford's draw with Chelsea moves them up 1 place into 15th. In the studio with us today, Rachel Coursey and Darren Lewis, and it's been a weekend. Oh, it's not been a game. It's been a weekend of fantastic goals. There've been lots of late goals, for one thing. Lots of goals scored after 80 minutes. But some of these are just gorgeous, aren't they? You like whistles, don't you?
I do like whistles. You love an overhead kick because it's just great. This one was brilliant as well from Eze. Beautiful goal.
Yeah, there's some great.
This is the best one for me.
The Souček one.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, lot of like. Oh, hang on, I love this one. This is my favourite.
I think this is the best
That's
one.
my favourite now. Change your mind.
Yeah, it is. And then, but there's another one here.
No, you know something? That's my favourite now. I love them all, Carol.
They are just fantastic goals. And look, it was a brilliant Manchester derby, set up by a Manchester United side who were never going to be the better team across the 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But they created enough opportunities to give it a bit more jeopardy than maybe people thought it would.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were throwing out massive scorelines, what they thought it was going to be, and I can imagine and understand that when you look at how easily they were opened up by Fulham at home. But that game, I thought they were pretty solid. I thought it was great. That's great for them to score that first goal because, like you mentioned, Kels, it was the kind of goal that you were shocked. Wow, that's happened. And then we started to see City get going, and obviously they started to get in, and Foden takes over and he's done what he's been doing all season, really.
Yeah.
He was outstanding. So, they've got that quality, haven't they?
Yeah, Ten Hag's had a bit of criticism, maybe is probably too strong a word, but for saying that it was a game of moments, and that if Manchester United had performed better in those moments, then they could have won it. The thing is, we have seen games where one side has dominated and the other side has won it, and Manchester United had opportunities to go further than a goal ahead. They could have gone 2, maybe even 3 up in that game. And yes, Manchester City dominated it. But I think I read the best description of it was it might have been a game of small moments, but it was also a game of big differences. Does that kind of sum it up for you, Rachel?
I think so. I think there's some acceptance starting to maybe be there for some of the fans that Manchester United aren't the team that they were 10 years ago, and they've had a tough period trying to get it right, trying to make changes, probably trying to find too many quick fixes. I think we're now starting to see last few results. They've had a bit of momentum. They're in an okay position in the table. For me, the biggest optimism is the environment you start to feel off the players. There's some good moments. The reality is City have world-class players in every position, and on the bench they have people that can then come into the game who are equally of as good quality, and I think that probably shows there is a big gulf. But also at the same time, that fixture there, as much as it's Manchester Derby and so many of us know the history of that, and I've loved it over the last several decades, I think it probably is a realisation that Manchester United are on a different page.
Yeah, and Pep Guardiola's been there for well, not far off a decade now, so 8 years nearly. And they had the setup in place for him before he came in. There were all those changes from the new owners that were implemented at Manchester City, and that's why Jim Ratcliffe is looking at them, having taken over football operations at Manchester United, and said, this is the plan that we want to emulate. And so they're starting to build from the boardroom and then hope that trickles down onto the pitch. But that can never be a short-term project.
No, it can't. But the problem that Sir Jim has is that whatever they do, City will be disappearing over the horizon. The numbers there tell their own story.
And this is since Sir Alex Ferguson left.
Since Sir Alex Ferguson, yeah. And it just shows how far they have to come. When Sir Alex Ferguson talked about knocking City off their perch, he'd done that off the back of winning countless Premier League titles. He'd won the treble. He'd won the Champions League a couple of times. He was already in the groove. United at the moment are at ground zero. They are in real trouble. And like Rachel quite rightly said, City do have world-class players in every position, but they also have discipline, a consistency of performance, consequences for poor performance. They've got leadership. They've got players prepared to take responsibility. There are so many elements to City that make them far superior to Manchester United. That's why every time you pick up a newspaper, you see City talked about in reverential terms and United talked about as a work in progress.
They are very much a work in progress, and it was interesting to see those numbers from when Sir Alex Ferguson left. And one of the standout ones was on an investment. And you look at the two sets of players who were out on the pitch, and Manchester City were the better starting 11. And then you look at the bench, and that's where the difference gets even bigger, because there were so many young players on that bench, transfers that haven't quite worked out for Manchester United, whereas City have, developing youngsters in there, yes, but they've also got experienced players, as Rachel was saying. They've got cover should they need it anywhere on the pitch.
Well, yeah, well, we know. Everybody knows City and where they are. And, if we're going to be speaking about City, then you've got to mention that we can't not mention 115 charges, but at the same time, the way that they invested in their team is around that. So if we are going to mention how great they are, and this is why I always think, Kels, the sooner they can get all that done so as these players can have their legacy and it's not tainted, the easier we can speak about Manchester City as an unbelievable football team, what they are. But you're looking at Man United and what they've gone through since Sir Alex to what they're going through now, the Glazers. Yes, we've seen investment, but it's come from what Manchester United have actually made commercially. It's not like they've had owners that really, have kicked in and done what you're seeing City do, because they're capable of doing that. So you looked at Manchester United's bench, and it was youngsters, and obviously there's injured players, but youngsters. So, as much as we could talk about them, sorry to take it to this place, but you have to mention how they've got into the position they have, and that's why Man United are trying to catch that up. So Jim's coming in, he's got a lot of work to do, like you say, he's starting from upstairs down, so you have to see how long that's going to take. But at the same time, going back to the match, yes, the gulf is there, because you can't look at a Man United side at the moment and compare them to Manchester City. And
even bringing up the 115 charges, it's worth pointing out that they are also historic charges. And what we saw there in terms of the figures represents the entirety of the time since Sir Alex Ferguson left. And Manchester United's net spend is significantly, almost £250 million more than what Manchester United have spent. So how on earth do they end up with a bench and a starting 11 that looks like that compared to what Manchester City have?
I think there's probably a few reasons to it. One, I don't think they've necessarily spent that well. And the other thing is, the more that Manchester United have felt like that team that's in a little bit of crisis, they've probably had to overspend for a lot of the players they've brought in, because players require a little bit more money to entice them to go to these clubs. And the clubs that are on, if you're going to a Liverpool or a Manchester City or an Arsenal nowadays, those teams are almost more lucrative for players. So Manchester United are now suffering. They're having to overspend, and then there's people from the outside looking at how much you spend and saying, well, you've spent X amount and this is the return. And that's one of these difficult things when you look at, when you spend money on players, there's a massive expectation, and almost it suffers the players too. We've seen that in the past. Manchester United players have a really tough time from the media because they go for a crazy price, and living up to that is sometimes not the easiest thing either.
That's a very good point.
It's a good point.
Because I think, I always think, and people say in terms of the media, why do you have so much scrutiny on certain players when they cost a huge amount of money? If you think about Gareth Bale, when he went from Spurs to Real Madrid, it cost £85 million. And very soon after he arrived, he scored an outstanding goal in the Copa del Rey to win it for Real Madrid. And straight away you could see that's where your money's gone. If you look at Anthony, who came on as a late substitute for Manchester United, his goal involvements are minimal this season. I think Jadon Danns, who's one of the kids at Liverpool, has scored more goals than Anthony has in the Premier League. And that tells you a lot about the lack of return on the investment for a player cost £72 million. And there is that expectation because you are joining one of the biggest clubs in the world, but all too few of the players spent for that money you spoke about, £250 million have actually provided a return on that investment. That's why Sir Jim is in there. Excuse me. And that's why so many United fans, look, no one's kidding themselves about yesterday. A lot of United fans felt they would lose. They knew that there is that gulf in quality. They would have been heartened by the way they stayed in the game for as long as they did. But I think ultimately the scoreline was representative of where the two clubs are right now. United aspire to be where City are, but City are where they are because of hard work, due diligence, attention to detail and consistency. You can't get away from that. 17 wins from their last 19, but over the period between Sir Alex Ferguson leaving and the City dominating, they've been consistent in what they've wanted to do, in the kind of player they bring in, with the recruitment.
Yeah.
And
no
scattergun
approach to City, is there? Yes, they've made some signings and people have moved on, but like when you look at City, they target someone and then they come in, they have their little period, and then bam, they're right into the system and they know the system. You know, unfortunately for Calvin Phillips, it didn't quite work out for him in the way he came in for the system, but with the players who it has worked out for, they're unbelievable players. Yeah.
It's 100 games now for Eric Ten Hag in charge of Manchester United, and that's one of the things that the new investors are going to be looking at and assessing and deciding what they want to do moving forward. The criticism has been, how do Manchester United want to play? What is their structure? What is their setup? That isn't what the problem necessarily was yesterday in the game against Manchester City. It was very clear what Manchester United wanted to do. So with a win percentage of 61% over those 100 games, is Eric Ten Hag looking like the man who will be taking Manchester United forward? Does he look like the man who should take Manchester United forward?
I think if you look at where we are right now with a takeover happened and everything, and then moving from the upstairs down to the manager, I think by the time they get to the manager, if he has got this Manchester United side into the Champions League, then I probably think that you have to give him another chance. But like if you're talking about from the time he's been there to now, with the structural side of everything, what you want from Manchester United, whereas you want to be able to, like Rachel rightly said, you buy a player and they fit in and they continue to grow and they're an asset and stuff. Man United haven't done that because it's more scattergun. You have to then look at, is this the manager to take them to the next level? You have to be looking at that, because if you're looking at it now, I still don't know what their main structure of players. You know what I mean? You can't buy players like that, you know, like Anthony, and it doesn't work. Amrabat coming in, it doesn't work. Why did you buy Mason Mount? So you're looking at the players that they've bought, and just those three, you know, and you think to yourself, who's making those decisions? Those things don't happen at City. Of course they don't. They've got an unbelievable management team. But for me, with Man United, we'll have to come to the manager, and is he the guy once they sort it out structurally to take them forward?
And I haven't seen any structure now. As players, would either of you go there in the summer if they came knocking on your door? Would you look at where they are?
Yeah, but instead of who?
Instead of, say...
Well, let's say Liverpool, because they're about to make a managerial change. Manchester United about to have got this big investment coming in now. So there's an element of the unknown to both of them. So maybe they're comparable.
If you know, obviously too much, I'd probably go with Liverpool, because it seems to me that Klopp is going to leave Liverpool in a great place in respect of the experienced players, the young players coming through, everything like that. You feel like if I'm going there, I'm going into a structure that's going to suit me. In that, if you're going to say Man United, you'll be probably going to Man United simply because of the name and what the name brings globally for you. So at the moment, if I was playing, I'd probably pick Liverpool right now.
I think Liverpool are more lucrative, But the one thing I'll say is, I think the biggest job that Ten Hag has done is it feels like he's started to change the culture. That he spoke very openly was the biggest problem, and I think that's potentially one of the biggest things that if I was a Manchester United fan, I would hold on to very dearly. And there's little moments of that, you know. I think there's some players who've I think I've never seen Dalot play so well as he's probably played in this part of the season. I think Onana's calmed down. I think there's that picture of Hoyland, Garnacho and Mainoo sitting on the board.
When they scored,
There's a feeling there of the players are enjoying being there. There hasn't been that for a very, very long time. And I think that's one of these things that, you know, when the culture can be good, that does a huge amount. And especially for a club like Man United that will... Once they get that momentum, there will be a huge surge from the fans, from everyone coming back together. So,
how long would that take, though, Rach?
Yeah, but I think the fact it's starting to look like it's moving in a positive direction, I think is huge, because I would say since Sir Alex Ferguson, there hasn't been a glimmer of that at all.
And if they are looking to build on those young players, that picture, as you said, of Mainu, Garnacho, Højlund is one that it was put to, I think, Garnacho and Mainu before the Manchester derby, and they called it an iconic picture, and it was Kobbie Mainu who said it's only an iconic picture if we deliver on the promise that we've shown. But are they three players that Manchester United can look at and say, all right, well, if we're going to be rebuilding, if this is our, this is our starting point, this is something we can use to build on.
Absolutely, yes. Everything optimistic about United, to my mind, comes through those players. Because not just because of what they've done on the pitch. I look at Højlund in particular, and when he scored a couple of goals the other day, and you see the passion in his face and his goal celebrations. It means so much to him to want to play for the club, to want to be somebody who delivers for the club as well. And that desire and that appetite is what being a Manchester United player means and what it represents. And I just think there are a lot of senior players who, to my mind, don't show that. It feels a lot like the old days of Arsenal under Arteta, where some of the players who'd been there for a long time maybe got a little bit comfortable. He recognised that he had to rip it up. And now the side that he has is unrecognisable from the side he had 3-4 years ago because he needed to reinvigorate it and really build around the younger players. Do I think Ed Ten Hag is that guy? I look at the way that Spurs players play under Ange Postecoglou, and I don't see that abandon about Manchester United. I don't see that freedom. I think Rachel's right about the hard work that he's done really to improve the culture, right? But I think if you look at football over the last 25 years, there have been so many managers who have done the hard graft to get close to a certain point. Claudio Ranieri at Chelsea before Jose Mourinho got them into the Champions League. They said, thank you very much. He'll take it from here.
Pellegrini won the title.
Pellegrini, exactly. And then they said, thank you very much, but this is a guy who gets us over the line, which he ultimately did. It took him a few years, but I think, well, I know, because I one or two things I'm aware of, Pellegrini didn't have the total respect of that dressing room in the same way that Guardiola does. And Guardiola's taken City to another level. And it is the case. At a lot of clubs, you do need somebody of a higher calibre to get you there. And I think that's what Man United need right now.
They do. They do. And I think, excuse me, when you look at Kobbie Mainu and Garnacho and Højlund, what you want to see now from the recruitment is from the defensive side. You want to get, because it seems to me they could get that spine sorted, with two really good young centre-halves that have got at least a ceiling 10 years quality. I'm not saying to go and get someone like Braithwaite from Everton, but I'm saying that's what you need, that kind of calibre of player coming through now at United. So you get that spine sorted, and hopefully you can get if it's going to be Ten Hag, you can get the kind of players that's going to fit into what that team can be structured like. So there's a lot of work to be done. And again, it's going to come down to recruitment as well. They're going to have to recruit so much better than they have been.
Talking about players who have been developed at pretty much the perfect pace, Phil Foden is now an integral part of that Manchester City side, having been held back. Not only has he performed in the absence of Kevin De Bruyne, he's now performing after the return of Kevin De Bruyne and is still a crucial part of that team. Lots of chat about, is he better out wide, or does Pep wants to play him out wide? Is he better as a number 10? He seems to just move around as and when required. And Pep Guardiola said, at this moment in time, he is the best player in the Premier League. Is he right?
I think, I think on form, and the way that he's like really getting games by the scruff of their neck with his creativity. There was a time when he wasn't playing when he was young, and we're saying, Pep, you've got to play him. Why aren't you playing? You're holding back English talent that needs to be playing in the Premier League. And people talking about, is he going to go on loan? And Pep saying, no way. No. And the form we're seeing now is why. Why is Phil Foden going to go anywhere else when he could train and play with the players he's playing to learn what Pep wants from him and now deliver on the faith that Pep has had in him? You look at him, and he at no stage said, I need to go on loan. And he stayed, learnt his craft, and look at the numbers he's putting up now. It is. I have to say that now because I wasn't saying it then. I wanted him playing, but brilliant management of him.
But what was always evident throughout that was his talent. But potential isn't always realised. In Phil Foden, it's hugely apparent. He's only 23, and yet he's already, I think, got 8 major trophies under his belt. I mean, he's young, but he's certainly not inexperienced.
Yeah, he must be bored.
Yeah. No, how does he keep that hunger?
Yeah. He just looks like one of these guys as well who just loves football so much. And I think when you love football as well, you just enjoy seeing that. And I think you play for Manchester City, you have so much of the ball. So when it comes to playing out wide or on a 10 or inverting in, however you want to describe it, I think in possession, the things he's good at, a team that dominates possession like City do, he's always going to thrive. He's so good going 1v1. He's so good at combining. That he gets the best service because the people around, the people around him. He scores different goals. Yeah, he's hitting fantastic form.
You know, the thing as well is that he's in a place where it's called like the bonus years. It's what you're meant to have in your 30s when you've won everything. So anything you're doing now, you're playing.
What it's called?
Bonus years, man. You know, because like this is just pure bonus. He's done it. He's done what all of us would dream of. He's got his Premier Leagues. You know, he's got his Champions League. Obviously, he hasn't got the World Cup, but you know, that's probably.
Yeah, you're not striving anymore.
That's what I'm saying to Phil. Yeah. Can you imagine if Phil? It's like Alvarez.
Yeah.
He's in his bonus years. Won everything. So everything now is down to how much he wants it. And this is where you look at Phil. He looks like he's enjoying it so much. I suppose when you have won everything at that age, it must be hard to be motivated. But at the same time, it must be very easy as well because he's still right at the start of his career, really, in what he's doing.
Guardiola said exactly what Rachel was saying, which is that he just loves football.
Yeah.
He actually said he loves football. I don't think he reads books or goes to the cinema, but he does love football.
I've
got this image of a little machine, and they like pull it, and a little bonus ball comes out. And give it to all the players.
Bonus.
Instead of a medal at the end of the season. Welcome to your bonus years. And here we go.
Must be amazing.
But look, he's in some ways, you know, he is, as Pep Guardiola says, and strong argument to suggest he's the best player in the Premier League at the moment. And yet he's not playing first choice in his first position at either club or country, where Jude Bellingham is currently tearing things up in pretty much as a number 10 for Real Madrid. So when he goes to play for England at the Euros, it's like, can I play number 10 here? Well, here's Jude. And it's extraordinary that he's doing this, not even in his preferred position.
And that's a big part of the reason why you'd have to say he's the best player in the Premier League at the moment. Because of that versatility, because of that discipline, because of the goal involvements as well. I think he's the best ball carrier in the Premier League at the moment. When he has the ball, he progresses it, he nurtures it, you can't get it off him. The skill on the run and the ability to ghost past players who are trying to bring him down, whip it off him, is just outstanding. And as a young player, to do it a few times is one thing. To retain the consistency he does it with, it's just exceptional. And I think, I know we're joking about bonus years, but I think he's only going to get better in the next few years. And we're going to see a player of De Bruyne levels by the time he gets to 25, 26, because he has that confidence in his ability. And I think Guardiola, obviously, with those minutes, I don't know, it's helped him to be more disciplined and more focused and more... I think he's really benefited for being held back. Yeah,
when you look at his size, you can imagine when he was younger, he had to be an intelligent player simply because if he gets himself in the traffic of the rest of the kids who are a bit bigger or whatever it was, he'd probably get knocked around the place. So when you look at the way Phil Foden takes up positions, you never see Phil Foden, unless he's running at somebody, you never see him stand still with somebody really close to him because he's learned over the years, for the way his size is and the way how slight he is and how he has to manoeuvre himself, he's learned how to naturally find space, get on space, be on the move with the ball. So if you do knock, it's going to be a foul or something. And that is why I remember watching videos when he was a kid, and you see how he's trying to go through. Sometimes he get knocked over, sometimes he went past him. He's playing exactly the same now, but he's learned even more from it. Such an intelligent player.
And also just doing all the defensive work as well, which isn't ever going to get highlighted. There's so much else to offer going forward as well. But he was working so hard in that game and getting right back to his own corner flag to kind of try and defend in that Can we talk about Erling Haaland very briefly, just so, because he does so brilliantly, he breaks all these records. Obviously, he scored a goal in the Manchester derby. He made it 3-1 to Manchester City. But it doesn't always go his way. I mean, he's just an incredible player. He gets opportunities like this, and this is inexplicable.
It's unexplainable because that is more difficult to miss that.
Yeah.
It would be. If you said, right, try and get this over the bar from here, from his body there, you'd have to do a lot to try and get that over.
Why doesn't he head it, right?
I don't know, because, like, in the moment, he's